I grew up in a small town in Ohio where everyone knew each other, and local legends spread like wildfire. 2 years ago, right around Halloween, I decided to test my courage by exploring a place the kids in town called the Witch's House. It was an old Victorian-style home on the edge of town, abandoned since the 1980s after its last owner, a reclusive old woman named Marjorie, died under mysterious circumstances. People said she used to do weird stuff like feed stray cats and burn candles all night long. After she passed, no one dared buy the place, and it slowly got swallowed up by overgrown trees and vines. I've always been into creepy things, horror movies, Stephen King books, anything that gets your heart pounding. So when I had a free afternoon, I figured I'd check it out. I packed a small backpack with a flashlight and my phone, thinking I might record the experience, maybe even post it on TikTok if I found something cool. The house was less than a mile from my place, so I walked over through quiet streets, the golden leaves crunching under my feet as the sun dipped low. The path leading up to it was barely there anymore, choked with weeds and tree roots, so I had to push my way through. When I finally got there, the house looked straight out of a horror flick. A sagging roof, shattered windows, and tattered curtains fluttering in the breeze. I stepped up to the front door, which was hanging off its hinges, and gave it a light push. It creaked open with a groan. Inside, it was a mess frozen in time. The living room had an old floral armchair, faded and torn to shreds, and a few dusty portraits hung crooked on the walls, their eyes seeming to follow me. I wandered across the creaky wooden floor, spotting scattered old books and some faded family photos on a table. The air felt heavy, almost alive. I decided to head upstairs where the staircase wobbled with every step. I half expected it to collapse under me. Up top, there was a long hallway with 3 doors. I opened the first one, an empty bedroom with a rusty bed frame and shredded curtains. I was about to check the next room when a loud thud echoed from downstairs. My heart jumped into my throat. It didn't sound like the wind or the house settling. It was too deliberate, like something heavy had dropped. I bolted back down the stairs, sweeping my flashlight around the living room, but everything looked the same, dark and still. A bad feeling crept up my spine, and I decided it was time to go. But when I got to the front door, it was shut tight. I'd left it wide open. I grabbed the handle and pulled. Nothing. It was locked or maybe bolted from the outside. Panic set in. Then I heard slow, deliberate footsteps coming from the staircase behind me. I spun around, my flashlight beam slicing through the dark, and for a split second, I saw it. A tall, thin figure in black standing at the top of the stairs. It didn't move, just stared. I yelled, ran to the broken living room window, and dove out, landing hard on the damp grass. As I scrambled up, I saw flashing red and blue lights cutting through the trees. 2 police cars speeding toward the house. Officers jumped out, shouting something I couldn't make out over the megaphone. I ducked behind a bush, heart still racing, watching as they kicked the door in and stormed inside. Something told me they weren't there for me. I didn't stick around to find out. I sprinted home, checking over my shoulder the whole way. Later, I tried digging online for info, but nothing came up about that night. A week after, some kids at school said the cops found evidence of a squatter living there, maybe a fugitive. Then they mentioned a notebook they'd found, listing names of people who'd come near the house. My name was on the last page. I don't know who or what I saw that night, but sometimes I still dream about that figure on the stairs, and it feels like it's still watching me. Back in 2018, me and my 2 best friends, let's call them Mike and Sarah, decided to do something wild to celebrate our last summer break before college graduation. We lived in the suburbs of Chicago where life was pretty chill, but we all loved a good thrill. Bungee jumping, horror movie marathons, or hitting up carnival rides. One day, Sarah brought up Dreamland Amusement Park, an abandoned spot about 40 miles outside the city. It used to be a hot spot in the 70s until a roller coaster accident killed a few people, and the place shut down for good. Locals swore it was cursed, and some trespassers claimed they'd seen weird stuff there. We figured it'd be a fun adventure, so that Saturday night, we grabbed some flashlights, our phones, and a bag of snacks, then piled into Mike's car. The drive took us through dark country roads, with only the headlights cutting through the night. When we pulled up, the park looked like a ghost town, a rusted iron gate with Dreamland barely legible, a giant Ferris wheel frozen against the sky, and faded booths overgrown with weeds. The chain-link fence had barbed wire on top, but we found a spot where it had been cut open by other explorers. We crawled through, hearts pounding with a mix of excitement and nerves. Inside, the air was chilly despite it being summer, and the wind whistling through the metal structures sounded like faint moans. We started at the roller coaster, a massive steel skeleton with twisted tracks draped in vines. I shined my flashlight around, spotting the old ride cars still sitting there, like they were waiting for passengers. Sarah suggested we check out the haunted house attraction. She said it was supposed to be the creepiest part. We agreed, though I was starting to feel uneasy. On the way, Mike pointed out a faded sign that read, "Restricted area, danger," but we shrugged it off and kept going. The haunted house was a big wooden building painted black, with broken mannequins propped up at the entrance. The front door was off its hinges, so we walked right in. It was pitch black inside, our flashlights bouncing off peeling walls and dusty props. Fake cobwebs, a wooden coffin, a headless doll. We cracked jokes to shake off the tension, but then I heard a sharp clack, like something metal falling, coming from deeper inside. We all froze, staring at each other. "Probably just a rat," Mike said, but his voice shook. I volunteered to check it out, heading down a narrow hallway to the next room. Sarah and Mike stayed back, but I could see them in my peripheral vision, so I figured I wasn't too far ahead. I pushed open a door and stepped in a room with a huge cracked mirror on the wall, reflecting my flashlight beam. Then I heard footsteps, fast and heavy, behind the door as it swung shut. I called out, "Mike? Sarah?" No response. I turned, shining my light on the door as it creaked open again. Empty. My pulse raced. Then Sarah screamed from the main room. I ran back, finding Mike and Sarah huddled near the exit. They said a tall figure in a tattered cloak had walked right past them and vanished into the shadows. We didn't wait for an explanation. We bolted out of the haunted house, scrambled over the fence, and jumped into the car. On the drive back, Mike swore he'd seen red eyes flash in the mirror when I'd left the room. I looked it up later and found an old article. The roller coaster crash wasn't an accident. A deranged worker had sabotaged it and supposedly hid out in the park after escaping custody. I don't know what we saw, but we've never gone back. Four years ago, when I was still in high school in Texas, my best friend Jake and I used to cruise around back roads to kill time. We loved finding odd spots, old barns, forgotten bridges, but this time we set our sights on Sunset Motel, a rundown place off Route 66. It had been a popular stop in the 50s until a new highway killed its business, leaving it to rot. Locals said it was haunted by a manager who'd murdered guests and then himself, but I brushed it off as small-town gossip. One winter night during Christmas break, we decided to check it out. It was pitch black when we got there, the moon casting a faint glow over the L-shaped row of rooms and a busted sunset sign dangling from its pole. We parked Jake's truck a little ways off and grabbed our flashlights and a water bottle. The place was dead silent. No crickets, no wind, just our footsteps crunching on cracked concrete. The motel windows were smashed, curtains flapping like ghosts, and the office door was hanging wide open. We started in the office. An old check-in counter stood there, complete with a rusty bell and yellowed flyers scattered around. I hit the bell for kicks, and it let out a shrill ring that echoed way too loud. Jake laughed, but I caught him glancing around nervously. We moved on to the rooms. Room 1's door was ajar, revealing a rotted bed, a cracked mirror, and a musty stench. I stepped inside, shining my light, and spotted an old Bible on the nightstand, open to a page that read, "Flee from evil." I called Jake over, but he was already heading to the next room. We hit room 5, its door shut tight. Jake shoved it open, and we peered into the darkness. The walls were covered in deep scratches, like someone had clawed at them in a panic. Then a loud bang rang out from the office. We jumped, spinning around, but the shadows stayed still. "Just the wind," I said, even though the air was dead calm. We kept going, but I started hearing whispers, soft like a broken radio, coming from somewhere in the room. Jake wanted to bail, but I pushed us toward the end of the row. Room 13, the unlucky number. Its door was locked, but when I touched the handle, it rattled like someone was pushing from the other side. I stumbled back, and then slow footsteps started up from the office, heading our way. We swung our lights toward the sound and caught a glimpse of a tall, thin figure with a tilted head crossing the beam before disappearing around a corner. Jake yelled, and we ran for the truck, but as we peeled out, I saw a red glow, like taillights, flicker from room 13. We didn't talk the whole ride home, just listened to our own breathing. Later, I dug into it and found a chilling story. The manager hadn't just killed guests. He'd buried them under room 13's floor. Cops dug it up years ago, but never found all the bodies. Some say their spirits linger, waiting for nosy kids like us. I'm not sure what we saw, but every time I drive past Route 66, I feel eyes on me from that motel.